Thank you for joining us in discussing conflict. I hope that when we finish, you will have found some additional tools for conflict management to put in your tool belt of life. Conflict is much more than a disagreement. It is a situation in which one or both parties perceive a threat. This threat may or may not be real. Conflicts continue to fester when they are ignored. They aren't something that can be brushed under the rug. The threat stays with us until we face and resolve them. Again, these conflicts are not necessarily based on facts. They are based on perceptions of the situation. Our emotions, life experiences, culture, values, and beliefs all impact how we perceive conflict situations. When we are in these tough situations, our emotions definitely are triggered. If we aren't comfortable with our emotions or aren't able to manage them successfully in a time of stress, it makes it even harder to resolve the conflict. Conflicts are very much an opportunity for growth. When we can resolve conflicts in a relationship, it builds trust. I like to think of a relationship as a house, and if a trust is one of the cornerstones of the house, successfully managing conflict helps make the cornerstone even stronger than it had been before. If you are one of us that fears conflict and will do anything to avoid it, it may stem from a frightening or painful memory from an unhealthy relationship or from early childhood. You may have the idea that any type of disagreement will end badly. You may see the conflict in relationships as demoralizing, humiliating, dangerous, or something to fear. This makes sense if you were left to feel out of control and powerless as a child. If this sounds like something that you struggle with, it would be so beneficial to talk to someone you trust, whether it be a close friend or a therapist. If you view conflict as dangerous, it tends to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you already feel threatened before a conflict situation arises, it will be even harder to deal with it successfully. Just like there are prerequisites for a job or a college course, there are prerequisites for managing conflict successfully. Like we just discussed, being self-aware is key. If there's things we need to work on, it is essential that we recognize them and work through them. Once we have done that, we can move on to being able to manage conflict well. So once we have worked through the stuff within us, we can move on to the next steps in managing conflict successfully. We must remain alert and calm. When we are calm, we can accurately read and interpret verbal and nonverbal communication. We will stay in control of our emotions and behavior. When we are in control of our emotions, we can communicate needs without threatening, frightening, or punishing others. Pay attention to the feelings that are being expressed by others, not just the spoken words. I know that in a tough situation or two, I have said, "I'm fine," when I clearly wasn't because I was crying. My nonverbal cues were speaking much louder than my verbal cues were. Lastly, being respectful is key. Avoiding name-calling, as well as other disrespectful words and actions, always results in resolving a problem faster. There are two skills to learn and practice that will help resolve conflict. The ability to quickly reduce stress in the moment is one. The other is remaining comfortable with our emotions to react in a constructive way, and even in the midst of an argument or a perceived attack. Being able to manage and relieve stress in the moment is so important. It is the key to staying balanced, focused, and in control, no matter what challenges you may face. If you aren't able to do this, you will become overwhelmed in conflict situations and will not respond in a healthy way. There are 3 ways many of us respond when we are overwhelmed and stressed. The first is foot on the gas. This person will get angry or agitated as their stress response. Being heated, extremely emotional, or unable to sit are common. Foot on the brake is next. This is characterized by withdrawing and entering into a depressed state. Shutting down, spacing out, and having a general lack of energy are typical. The last is a combination of both, with the foot on the brake and the gas. This is when someone freezes under pressure and can't do anything. You may seem paralyzed on the surface, but are very agitated underneath. Were you able to see which category you fall into? By being self-aware, we are able to move forward with our progress. Stress definitely interferes with our ability to resolve conflict. It limits our ability to accurately read another's nonverbal communication, hear what someone is actually saying, be aware of our own feelings, be in touch with your deep-rooted needs, and communicate your needs clearly. These are big problems in effective communication. Stress is one of those things that sneaks up on us. We may not be aware that we are stressed. Take a look at yourself quickly. Do you often feel tense or tight somewhere in your body? Are you unaware of movement in your chest or stomach when you breathe? Does conflict absorb your time and attention? If any of these sound familiar, take some time to de-stress. Everyone struggles with stress, but equipping ourselves with the proper tools to manage it will make handling conflict and everyday tasks easier. Let's take a look at the second conflict resolution skill, emotional awareness. Emotional awareness is the key to understanding yourself and others. If you don't know how you feel or why you feel that way, you won't be able to communicate effectively or resolve disagreements. This sounds so simple, but it's not. Many people try to ignore or sedate strong emotions like anger, sadness, or fear. Your ability to handle conflict depends on being connected to these feelings. If you're afraid of strong emotions, your ability to face and resolve differences will be impaired. Emotional awareness is the consciousness of your moment-to-moment emotional experience. This, paired with the ability to manage your feelings appropriately, is the basis of communication process that can help resolve conflict. It helps us understand what is troubling both ourselves and others, helps us stay motivated to resolve the conflict, helps us communicate clearly and effectively, as well as attract and influence others. Quickly reducing stress and bringing emotions into balance is very important. Let's discuss some tips for managing and resolving conflict. The next few tips will help you ensure the process is as positive as possible. Listen for what is felt as well as what is said. Listening helps us connect more deeply to our own needs and emotions as well as others. Listening strengthens us and informs us. It makes it easier for others to hear us when it's our turn to speak. Make resolving the conflict the priority, not winning the argument. This is so difficult, but it's so important. Strengthening the relationship really is more important than being right. Being respectful of the other person's viewpoint. Focus on the present. If you're holding grudges, the ability to see the current situation will be impaired. Instead of placing blame, focus on the here and now. Conflicts can be so draining, so picking your battles is so important. Is the issue worth the time and energy? If not, let it go. Be willing to forgive. Resolving conflict is impossible if you're unwilling or unable to forgive. Let go of the urge to punish. It never makes up for our losses and only further drains our lives. Know when to let something go. If you can't come to an agreement, agree to disagree. It takes two people to keep an argument going, so you can choose to disengage and move on. These are some of my favorite quotations, so take them as your last few tools to help you get through the conflict that you encounter. We all struggle, every parent, everywhere. We all second-guess ourselves, and we all want to quit sometimes. Hold the good times close, and when things are tough, remember, this too shall pass. Finding the funny may not save your soul, but it will save your sanity. Or maybe it's the other way around. Either way, look for the humor and embrace the crazy. Laughter is a lifeline. Every day, you will feel like you have mishandled something, like you've been impatient, like you've misjudged, like you've been too harsh, like you've been too lenient. You may be right. Apologize if you need to, and then whatever. Seriously, just whatever. Let it go. Thank you for watching our webinar on managing conflict. Please stay tuned for upcoming webinars and check our website regularly for updates.